This episode is on what is a Performance Max campaign and how you can get the most out of them for your Google Ads campaigns. First off, Performance Max is one campaign type that runs across every network that Google has. It will run on YouTube, Gmail, Display Network, Search Network, it will run on Discovery, and it would also run on Google Shopping Network. So with one campaign type, you get pretty huge visibility across all of these channels, and Google will optimize and show on different channels based on where it thinks your target customer will be. Performance Max is an AI-driven campaign type, so it will take your budget, your bid strategies, your creative assets, your audiences, your targeting, and then it will optimize the bidding, where you serve, who you show to, the keywords you show for, and the websites you serve on in the case of display, and it will optimize those based on the input parameters that you've given it. Performance Max uses AI to optimize towards your goal. So if you have a bid strategy that's targeting maximize conversions, then your campaign will optimize towards that goal across every channel and a bit more intelligently than some other campaigns that Google has to offer. The AI side of Performance Max is what makes it perform differently depending on your industry and depending on your product. So what we found in the past, depending on the kind of business you run for, it can be really, really good. It can perform really, really well, or it can shit the bed and it can not work so well. The things that put you on the better side, the side where Performance Max works well, is if your product is easily understood by Google and if you are providing Google with a lot of data. If you get a lot of conversions, it can optimize quickly and it can optimize using that data. If you get few conversions, but you're in an industry or a product type that Google will have an understanding of, if you're in, for example, selling shoes, there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of shoe retailers that are running Google Ads, so Google can use all that data and you won't have access to it, but it will optimize using that data to help your campaigns out. If, however, you are sort of a niche B2B SaaS or a niche software product or a niche service provider, it can struggle getting good results. And we've seen this in the past. It either needs to run for a long time to gather data about your specific business, or you just need to provide it with more and better data to get it to work. Performance Max is also pretty simple to set up. With all the automation, you do lose control over a lot of things. So there's just less to add to campaigns. For example, keywords. In the case of search campaigns, Performance Max will run on that channel, but you won't have control over the keywords that you serve for. The cons of using Performance Max that I haven't already covered before, there's very limited reporting. You can see some of the keywords that you show for, they're grouped weirdly to sort of, it seems like Google's hiding the keywords that you serve for. So they come in this view that's pretty limited. It makes it quite hard to optimize, to see what keywords you're running for, and it also makes it hard to create your negative keyword lists unless you're building them outside of Performance Max. The asset quality and the input that you provide to a Performance Max campaign matter a hell of a lot. So you need to focus on your product feeds. If you're an e-commerce brand, you need to focus on your creative assets, your YouTube videos, and you need to make sure that these are all top tier so that Google has the best opportunities and the best resources to create good assets on all of those channels. Another issue is if you don't have your negative keyword lists down, it can cannibalize your other campaigns and cannibalize your other search and display campaigns. There's some issues here. So a lot of people will exclude brand from Performance Max and they'll either have it separate or they'll just exclude entirely and then have like a brand search campaign. It can also take a lot of time to get fully optimized. So as I said before, it's all about data with Performance Max. If you get 1 lead a month and you're a pretty niche but like high ticket company, it can take a while to get performance really going. And in that case, we would suggest if you set up a lot of micro conversions on your website. So if you get a lead, for example, if you can then say, if you can then have another conversion action for them being good quality, booking a demo, you could also have some less high intent website conversion actions. So for example, if they spend a lot of time on your website, visit 10 plus pages, those are all signs of good quality that you can push into Google Ads to say, yes, this person is slightly better than this person, and someone who completes 2 actions is better than someone who completes 1. And it's all data you provide to Google so that it can help understand who you are aiming to reach. Performance Max differs to search and shopping despite running on those same networks because of a few things. As I've mentioned, Performance Max runs on a lot of channels, which gives it more reach than standard shopping or search campaigns. It also uses generated assets. So if you provide images and descriptions, it can sometimes generate headlines for you, and it will also show images in different formats that you provide. It can sometimes change the orientation, crop them, adjust the images slightly, and it can also create video assets for you if you've not provided them. And that's something that you should be worried about because they don't look great. It's something that you can monitor when you're looking in the platform itself. You can see the videos that it's generating. They're better now than when Performance Max came out, purely because they've added some brand controls. So if you go in your campaign settings, you can say your primary brand colors, your font, to give it some idea of what your branding, I guess. Before, it was all over the place. It was creating videos that wouldn't have anything to do with your website in terms of brand guidelines, that is. Another thing that's different between standard shopping, search, and Performance Max is the amount of control. You do not get as much in Performance Max, that's for sure. You also don't get as much visibility on where Performance Max is running. Recently, there is a beta for channel reports, so you can at least see now how much you're spending on shopping, search, YouTube, discovery, etc. When you should use Performance Max. This is a campaign type that is super useful and highly recommended for e-commerce brands. We'd recommend using a feed-only Performance Max campaign if you're in e-commerce, and that will get rid of all of the display and video side of things, and it should just run on the shopping network, maybe with some search in there as well, but it would stop you running on display and YouTube. This is slightly more difficult to set up, and we'll have a video on how to set that up, but that would use Google Ads Editor, and it's a workaround that's not really meant to be used, but it gets much better performance that we've seen. It's also pretty good to test your creative assets in. You can upload quite a few in there in different asset groups, and you can see in a combination report the different creatives that Google is serving people and the click-throughs and impressions for each of those combinations, which is quite useful. It's really good for retargeting and remarketing. Part of Performance Max being pretty bottom of funnel and looking for those higher converters, it does tend to show for some remarketing audiences, retargeting audiences, which you can exclude or keep in, or you can optimize towards new customers, which would stop Google showing for old customers. It's also really useful if you are in an easy to understand business for the reasons I mentioned earlier. If you get a lot of conversion data, or if you sell something pretty common, pretty broad, then Performance Max has a lot of data to work off of, and it's much easier for you to achieve your target ROASs or your target CPAs quicker. Without this data, it's still worth running sometimes, but it can just take a month, 2 months, depending on your ad spend to get to that sort of peak learning period. What we've covered in this video, so we've covered everything that's in a Performance Max campaign and some tips and tricks on how to get the most out of them. It's a smart cross-channel campaign type that runs across all of the Google Ads network. It offers pretty broad reach, but uses AI to work out who's more likely to convert or help you reach your business goals. You do trade off control with efficiency and scale, which in some cases is good, some cases is bad. It depends on your individual business. And it's really good for e-commerce if you are looking to really scale campaigns and reach a wider network, but still target your business goals.